Some of the most fun I've had making videos on this channel have been the Where Are They Now series, where we dive into each and every Eagles draft class to answer one simple question: where are they now? The 2015 draft class was always one I've targeted and wanted to keep for a special occasion, purely because it's a very symbolic draft. It was the last of the Chip Kelly era and the first in which he had total control of the roster. I mean, that offseason he'd signed DeMarco Murray to a massive contract, Byron Maxwell to a massive contract, allowed Jeremy Maclin to walk into free agency. This was always going to be a big time draft, but little did we know it would be the one that led to his firing and of course the beginning of the Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz era. And after Nelson Agholor actually departed the Eagles and signed a contract with the Raiders this past offseason, not a single member from Chip's 2015 draft class remains. So the question is, where are they now? And that is what we're going to be finding out in today's video. And today's video also just happens to take place on Sunday Funday! If you're new around here, guys, make sure you leave a like and hit that subscribe button. It would be absolutely amazing if you could. We're so close to 20,000 subscribers and we would love to have you as part of our Philadelphia sports community, where we've got a Discord server, we're planning meetups, some special events, some Zoom calls for special guests. There's a lot to be excited about, so make sure you stick around for the future. And as always, if you're not already, the best way to support us outside of that is just checking out phillysportsnetwork.com. That's our website. We'd love for it to be your new home for Philadelphia sports coverage, and it's where you can get content from myself and all of our writers at Philly Sports Network. So round 1, pick 20, Chip Kelly selected wide receiver Nelson Agholor out of USC. And there's so much to say about this pick in retrospect, but we've already done that on a video on this channel. So if you want to see the full story of Nelson Agholor and how his career slowly derailed in Philadelphia, then please do go and check out that video. But we'll try and give you a brief synopsis here. Agholor did most of his damage from the slot during his days at USC, which made the decision to push him outside as a replacement for Jeremy Maclin a little bit puzzling, although it did make some sense with Jordan Matthews still around. He caught just 23 passes for 283 yards and a touchdown as a rookie, which was wildly disappointing, although there were flashes of excellence, like the times he consistently got open against Darrelle Revis when facing the Jets, but went untargeted. Under Doug Peterson, Agholor did move into the slot, but the concentration issues and drops showed in his rookie season followed him inside. This led to Peterson essentially benching him for a few weeks, keeping him away from the growing pressure and intense spotlight that his flaws had drawn, and allowing Agholor, in his own words, to get out of his own head. I remember speaking with Jordan Matthews about this for an interview back at the end of that 2015 season, and he said that it was so difficult to help Nelson Agholor because he didn't speak about it, and once he actually opened up and discussed the mental setbacks he was having, it made it that much easier to actually just sit down with him and try and help him past them. After an off-season of reflection, Agholor burst out of the gate with a new sense of confidence, ending 2017 with 768 yards and 8 touchdowns, and of course a Super Bowl ring. He was a key cog in the team's miraculous run and finally showed the type of form that fans had been begging to see since his arrival 2 years before that. 1 year later, in 2018 though, the wheels started to wobble once more, but another 736-yard season at least proved that he could replicate that form from 1 year ago and sustain that kind of production, if not with a few more mistakes. Then came 2019. No one really knew what the Eagles were going to do, but they decided to pick up his 5th year option and pay him $9.4 million, which was a puzzling decision to say the least, but the team obviously had faith in him, but that faith would go unrewarded as Agholor's old mental setbacks started to creep up on him once more. Just 363 receiving yards were tied to his name in 2019, and they really just don't highlight how significant that drop-off was here. The lack of effort on certain drops, woeful misses when attempting to track the deep ball, and an injury all added up to a flailing disappointment. His time in Philadelphia was nothing short of torrid. There were highs, and nobody can take away the Super Bowl contributions, but for every touchdown and every deep reception, there was a drop or a lapse of concentration or a bizarre moment with the media, and someone that just struggled to overcome the pressures needed to be great in the city of Philadelphia. He signed a one-year deal with the Raiders after entering free agency, but it's worth under $1 million. So it's probably going to be a good chance for him to start in a fresh city with a transient market and no weight of expectation, but his stint in Philadelphia was disappointing at best. Round 2, pick 47 saw Utah's Erik Rowe selected by the Eagles after a trade-up to acquire the DB, which made this story even more puzzling. It still stings me to this date because to me, Erik Rowe had such great potential for the Eagles and his tenure was cut short after 1 year. In his rookie season, Rowe amassed 31 tackles and a pick after enduring a trial by fire on Megatron Island. He did show some real potential early on, including an impressive game against the Patriots in that iconic victory, but it would be the Pats that would spot the untapped ability and snatch it from the Eagles less than a year later. With a new era beginning, it rapidly became clear that, like Randall Douglas after him, Rowe's game just didn't quite fit the Jim Schwartz system. The team were obliterated through the air in the preseason, and on September 7th, Rowe was traded to the team he only allowed 42 yards on 12 targets against 1 year ago, the New England Patriots. Rowe spent 3 years with the Pats, winning 2 Super Bowls and 1 runner-up pat on the back thanks to the team that drafted him, before signing a 1-year deal worth $3.5 million with the Miami Dolphins. After a stunning 8 passes defense in his first year, the Finns decided to give him a 3-year extension worth $18 million back in December. This came on the back of Rowe actually moving from corner to safety after cluster injuries at the position left the Dolphins short-handed. So Rowe moved up and actually symbolically had a great game against Zach Ertz of the Philadelphia Eagles. Rowe totaled 81 tackles last season and now projects to be an important piece of the Dolphins secondary. And you know what? For a player that had comfort ripped away from him after just 1 year with the team that drafted him, it's nice to see him doing better than most in this class. I always had a soft spot for Erik Rowe, and I'm glad he's got himself a nice secure future with the Miami Dolphins and a chance to really go down as an established defender in this league. Do you know what? If this draft class was anything, it would be my love life, filled with players who just got away before it could all work out perfectly. It's time to get in our feelings again because round 3, pick 84, Jordan Hicks, linebacker, Texas. It really didn't take Hicks long to make an impact. In just 2 years with the team, he had 135 tackles and 3 interceptions, taking the baton passed over from D'Amico Ryans as a dominant leader over the middle. Simba had risen, but there was one thing keeping him from leading the animal kingdom to greatness. Hicks became a fan favourite during his short time with the Eagles, with some stunning plays against the Dallas Cowboys sending him straight into celebrity status. But for all his production and athleticism, the point remains that he only played 1 full season since being drafted by the team up until last off-season when he walked into free agency. With 15 appearances in 2015 and 2017 combined, it became clear that the whole reason Hicks slipped into the laps of the Eagles to begin with would be the reason he couldn't stay forever. When healthy, Simba was a natural leader of the defense, but when he wasn't, his absence stung massively. But then came a bitter twist of the knife. The Cardinals signed the former Eagles linebacker to a 4-year contract with $20 million guaranteed, costing $36 million altogether last offseason. And in a year where the Eagles linebacking core was ravaged of depth and productivity, he went on to record 150 tackles, 7 quarterback hits, and 6 passes defensed. Oh, and he started 16 games. The one that got away. Round 6, pick 191. The Eagles didn't have any mid-round picks after the trade-up, so after a hamstring injury lowered his draft stock, the Eagles took what many people called the sleeper and the steal of the NFL draft, Shepard, cornerback out of Kansas. Shepard enjoyed a strong spring, turning heads and constantly making plays throughout OTAs and minicamp, but things took a turn for the worst in early August. He continued with the good run of form in the early stages of camp before a collision with Darren Sproles on the sideline sent him to the ground in pain. Shepard had torn his ACL and as a result would miss his entire rookie season. The worst possible thing happened next, from the eyes of Shepard at least. Chip Kelly was dismissed and Jim Schwartz totally revamped the secondary, bringing in Laerdis McKelvin and Ron Brooks to run alongside Nolan Carroll. Then there was the drafting of Blake Countess and Jalen Mills. The mountain to climb was intimidating for a player missing most of that following offseason due to rehabbing the torn ACL. After being released by the Eagles, who else but Chip Kelly's San Francisco 49ers would poach him almost instantly? Shepard was plunged into action straight away and averaged 34.7 yards on 3 kickoff returns against the Saints, playing in 22% of special team snaps for the remainder of the season. Following that short stint, he caught on with the Steelers but was unable to make the final roster, and after a brief year away, he surprisingly popped up on the roster of the Birmingham Iron of the Alliance of American Football, where he again rotated on and off the roster before the season started. This remains a really disappointing pick. I had high hopes for his career and the dominoes just didn't seem to fall in his favour. Maybe he'll push back onto an NFL or a CFL roster one day, but as of right now, he remains without a team. 5 picks later, with pick 196, the Eagles selected Randall Evans, another cornerback, this time out of Kansas State. He failed to make the team's roster in 2015 and would spend the next 2 years trying to fight his way off of the Chargers practice squad. While that didn't go to plan, it did lead him to the CFL, where a brief stint with the Tiger Cats was met with some preseason action and was followed by one with the Red Blacks, where the 28-year-old made 68 tackles in 2019 at cornerback and safety. Ottawa was so impressed in fact that they offered him a 1-year extension as a result, giving the Red Blacks a solid backup defensive back. And of course it means that Randall Evans is on a roster for 2020. So in conclusion, we have no choice but to stand. Evans kept at it, he wouldn't take no for an answer, and he got himself onto a football roster after college. That underdog mentality did stay throughout the rest of this draft class, because with the final pick of that draft, number 237, the Eagles selected Brian Mialik out of Boston College, a 6'9", 295-pound defensive end, who may well have had a better ceiling under Jim Schwartz as a defensive tackle, but that's a debate for another day. He just wasn't quite a fit at a 3-4 defensive end position, despite that overwhelming freak of nature frame. The Steelers, who had previously found great success in converting Alejandro Villanueva to offensive tackle just 1 year beforehand, who had similarly athletic profiles and both stood at 6'9", decided to work out the athletic monster after he was cut by the Eagles and then handed him a contract. His career then took a slightly awkward turn. He strained his MCL in the preseason opener against Detroit, but it will be the Lions who offered him his next opportunity. He actually went on to start a few games for the Lions, who got a good look at him in that preseason game, and the Steelers came knocking a few months later and poached him back off of Detroit's practice squad. Pittsburgh waived him next, and then, believe it or not, the Lions came back again, listing him as a backup behind Greg Robinson. That backup role would follow him to New York, yeah, I know, shocking, not Pittsburgh, in 2018, but he'd be waived the following offseason and spent the 2019 campaign without a team. It's actually surprising to see someone cut so soon into their career stay kicking around the NFL this long, let alone someone that moved from defensive end to offensive tackle. So hopefully there are more pages to this story when football resumes later this year. But that is it, guys. That is the entire Chip Kelly 2015 draft class. There is no doubting that the first 3 picks are very storied and that Jordan Hicks may well have been the jewel in the crown. But what do you guys think looking back on this draft class? Who were the pleasant surprises? Who do you wish you saw more from? And what's your overall vibe when examining this group of players? Let me know down below in the comments, and of course what you guys want to see next on this channel, what draft classes you want to see next on this channel. From myself, Liam Jenkins, I'll see you soon.